We love a queen who forgets to actually press film and does a whole thing without filming. Whew, we love it. We love being organised queens on this community. So I may come back another day to film the other bits of this video because I can see, oh my gosh, it's hot again. I can see that my lighting is going to not be good soon. What I'm doing today is reading funny reviews, reading 1-star reviews of books that I love. I think this is going to be a bit of a trend. I really liked Mercedes' version of this, as well as this person. I forget names sometimes. Ooh, so today I'm doing books, I'm reviewing books that I've loved throughout the year. That way I can talk about the book and why I liked it while some other people might not have liked it. I'm going to start with, I did start with A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf, but it didn't film. So I've got my phone here. If I look down, that is why. I've got my phone, I've got Game of Thrones on Goodreads up. I have read that book 3 times now. I have read different characters separately many times now. I just really appreciate Game of Thrones. I will link one blog that I particularly love that goes into Game of Thrones and how good the book is compared to the show. It's an amazing blog / podcast. Anyway, wow, that was a long intro. How are you all, by the way? Yeah, I already asked how you are, but I didn't film it apparently. I keep looking because I think my camera, my SD card is still bad. Okay, I don't want to do the ones that are the most popular because it seems that they might have some clapback unless they were only a year ago. So I don't want to, so I'll do the ones that are the most current. This one has many likes. This one has 1,671 likes, and this is on Game of Thrones, the first book, not even the boring ones. Okay, let's see what J.G. Keeley has to say about it. Because lots of people, we love a shitty SD card. Though I'm not sure why they protest so much. Predictability is hardly a death sentence in the genre of fantasy. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Let's also keep in mind that this book came out 20 years ago. So this book is not trying to redefine the genre more than any other, you know? He didn't set out to be some amazing person. Like, it was 20 years ago and it's only recently gotten all the hype, and that's why it's taking him so long to get over his writer's block. God. Okay. Sorry, rant over. Not really, I'm sure I'll still rant. The archetypal story of a hero, a villain, a profound love, and a world to be saved never seems to get old. It's a great story when it's told well. I'm guessing this isn't told well. At the best, it's exciting, exotic. Interesting choice of fucking word, exotic. And builds to a fulfilling climax.
That's what she said!
At the worst, it's just a bloodless rehash. Unfortunately, the worst are more common by far. Can you just get to the point? Perhaps it was the abundance of cliché romances that drove Martin to aim for something different. Unfortunately, you can't just choose to be different any more than you can choose to be creative. Sure, Maruk's original. Can you get to the point of Martin himself? In similar gesture, Martin rejects the allegorical romance of epic fantasy, which basically means the tearing out the guts of the genre. The wonder, the ideals, the heroism, and with them, the moral purpose. Oh, you are right. The only way a character can have moral purpose is if they have love. Oh my god. Obviously, I'm so stupid. Obviously, a character can only have romantic, a moral code if they have romantic interests. Obviously. Fine, he took out the rollicking fun and the social message. Social message? How did he take that out? What did he replace them with? Like the most more comics of the 90s, I don't know what that is, fantasy has already borne witness to a backlash against the upright moral hero and then a backlash against the grim anti-hero who succeeded him. Yes. Hell, if all Martin wanted was a grim and gritty anti-heroes in an amoral world, he didn't have to reject the staples of fantasy. He could have gone to its roots. I'm not understanding how you think he rejected the roots that much. He rejected as much romance. He rejected as much of a journey's hero, of a singular journey's hero. But he still has that with Danny, and he still has that with John, who are those... Anyway. Like many authors aiming for realism, he forgets truth is stranger than fiction. The real world is full of unbelievable events, coincidences, and odd characters. When authors remove these elements in an attempt to make their world seem real, they make their fiction duller than reality. After all, unexpected details are the heart of... I don't know this word. When these two authors, who I don't know, eschewed the easy thrill of romance, they replaced it with odd and absurd moments strange enough to feel true. In comparison, Martin's world is dull and grey. Instead of innovating new radical elements, he merely removes familiar staples, and any style defined by lack is going to end up feeling it thin. Can I just ask if you have read the rest of the books, or at least tried to read the rest of the books, or have you read Game of Thrones, watched the TV show, and gone by the TV show? Because the TV show did a lot of things differently to the books. Game of Thrones is probably the only one that is accurate to the books, the first season and the book. And I understand that because it's a setup book for a series, I understand why you would be, as a fantasy fan, you might be a bit like, this is ridiculous. But can you just try and understand the series? I don't know if you have. Maybe you have and I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of this is just answered by reading the whole damn series. I don't know where I got up to. Yet, despite trying to inject the book with history and realism, he does not reject the melodramatic characterization of his fantasy forefathers, as evidenced by his brooding bastard anti-hero protagonist with pet albino wolf. Apparently to him, grim realism is Draco in leather pants. I don't know that reference. I'm going to click on it. This produces a conflicted tone, a soap opera cast lost in existential film. The thing about John is that he grows up. He's only like 14, 15 when he is all grumpy and mopey because he's what's the word? He's the bastard. So he grows up. That's why George made him 14 at the start of the series, and that's where, even though the show needed to include rape, that's where they failed, because it just seems ridiculous to have a really beautiful Kit Harington and really beautiful Emilia Clarke in their 20s crying about things that just aren't relevant. But they really needed the rape scenes. Game of Thrones just needed the rape scenes so bad that having actual relatable characters didn't matter to them. I don't know, this Draco and leather pants thing, that didn't amuse me. I thought it might be Harry Potter related. Yet, despite oh no, oh, honey. He goes into the rape thing. I was just thinking, don't go into the rape thing. There's also lots of sex and misogyny and wall-to-wall rape. Not that books should shy away from sex or for any uncomfortable, unpleasant reality of life. The problem is when people who are not comfortable with their own sexuality start writing about it, which seems to plague every mainstream fantasy author. Their pen gets away from them, their own hang-ups start taking over the scene until it's not even about the characters anymore, it's just about blah, 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 blah. Fucking read A Feast for Crows, read Cersei's chapters and tell me Tell me that he's just using sex as a plot, and rape as a plot device, if that's what you're getting at. Feast for Crows literally just answers all of these questions. And there's not even, I mean, yes, there's Danny. There's all of Danny's storyline, but you're not actually pinpointing which characters you're referring to. It seems like you're just going off the show. I'm sorry, I'm being honest, that's what it seems like. Because you're not pinpointing. And I can't give you a good response because you haven't given me a good enough review. I know a lot of fans probably get into it more than I do, brackets, like night elf hunters humping away in Winds of Winter. Oh, so you have read Wait. No, Winds of Winter hasn't come out yet. I don't know what WOW stands for. God fucking damn it, just read the series. But reading Goodkind, Jordan and Martin, it's like seeing a Playboy at your uncle's where all the pages are wrinkled. That's not to say there isn't serviceable pop fantasy sex out there, it's just written by women. That's a good point, but at the same time I don't think George is aiming to write a good sex story, or he's not aiming to write a good romance story. He's aiming to write something completely different, and it's not just rape. It's not like the show where they just love the rape scenes. It's like, no. He actually looks at it from the woman's perspective, not from the man or the viewer's perspective. Fuck! Read the book! Though I didn't have any choice examples, I did come across this quote from a later book. Okay, so you come across a quote from a later book, but I assume you haven't read the whole series, and you didn't have any choice examples unless you went out of your way to search for it. So please tell me, have you read the whole series? Oh shit. Ooh. I kind of want to know what you guys think. Have you read this book and have you watched the show? Do you agree that with him, or do you with this person's review, or do you agree with me? Because you guys are super intelligent in the comments and the people that I do watch, so let me know. It's just so exhausting because they don't. Okay. The quote goes, "She wore faded sand silk pants and woven grass sandals. Her small breasts moved freely beneath a painted Dothraki vest." Okay. Imagine the process. Martin sits, hand hovering over the keys, trying to get inside his character's head. Okay, I'm a woman. How do I see and feel the world differently? My cultural role is defined by birth. I can be bought and sold in marriage on my own. Oh hey, I've got tit. Okay, you literally went out of your way to search for a quote from a book you didn't even say that you've read, and now you're imagining George, an author, writing a scene. You don't have the authority on how George thinks about his characters or how his writing process works. And if you actually fucking read the book, you would know that that's not what he's doing. My Goodreads keeps stuffing up, so I have to keep going back to the thing. This is just going to be one video because I can't believe how funny this is. It's such an in-depth review. I respect that. Mad props to you for actually not just being like, I hated this book. No reason given. So it's giving me laughs. Oh my god, wait, it's so much longer than I thought. I'm only going to keep going because this review has so many likes. If it was one that didn't have many likes or it was from years ago, I wouldn't try and drag it up, but it was only written a year ago and it has like over 1,500 likes. That's a lot. Like, a lot of people agree with this. And I assume haven't read the book, so. Then it all ends up being a red herring, a cheap twist, the equivalent of a horror movie jump scare. No, it doesn't. It's like mystery novels in the 70s. Fuck, that is the show. This is tiring. I'm just going to keep repeating myself. The show and the book are separate. All plots are made up of arcs that grow and change, building tension and purpose. Now he just sounds really like he's trying so hard. They're trying so hard to be intelligent, but okay. I'll keep going because I'm finding this hilarious. I don't even have wine. I've only got coffee. Normally, when an arc ends, the author must use all his skill to deal with the themes and answer questions, providing a satisfying conclusion to a promising idea that his readers watched and grow. Have you fucking read the whole series? Or just kill off a character central to the conflict and bury the plot arc with him. Are you just going off the show? Then you don't have to worry about the closure. Fuck. You're going on as if... But I really think you just lost the plot. You haven't actually read the series. Far out. It's only book one. Book one of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's more coming out because he's trying so hard to conclude all of these characters so well. It's giving him writer's block. And then people get mad at him. I'm going to skip a bit because I feel like I'm just repeating myself. Unluckily, and this reviewer obviously skipped some books, so I feel like I could skip some of his review. Unluckily, authors live to write the final book, breaking the spell of unending tension that kept their readers enthralled. Since the pilot isn't revolving into a tight intertwined conclusion, brackets, in fact, it's probably spiraling out of control with ever more characters and scenes. But do you know if it is? Have you read the rest of the series? You haven't even told us if you have read the rest of the series. It really hurts my feelings that you're so stuck in this ideal without actually having read the fucking books. The author must wrap things up conveniently and suddenly, leaving fans confused and upset. I agree with that. I agree. Having thrown out the grand romance of fantasy masters in... I agree with you completely here. This is where the show got it wrong. This is exactly why I don't like the show anymore. Because they didn't think about further seasons before writing the plot of the season. So maybe you're just going off the show, and that's fine, but just admit it in the review. Far out. You can't blame the author for not wrapping up the series when he himself hasn't fucking wrapped up the series because of his own reasons. Okay, I'm just gonna sit here and like cry a little bit. The drawback is that even if a conclusion gets stuck on at the end, the story fundamentally leads nowhere. It winds back and forth without resolving. He asks us to believe in his intrigue, his grimness, and amoral world of war, power, and death, not the false hope of Europe of Robin Hood. I agree with you. He mentions Tolkien, but I don't read that much fantasy, so maybe I'm wrong here. But he does mention Tolkien and his editors. So I think you're trying to say that you need that fantasy books need to have more hope than what you got out of Game of Thrones, and I agree with you completely. That's why I love the characters of Game of Thrones, because they do provide hope. In the books, A Song of Ice and Fire, there are moments of love and joy and hope, and it's not always, it's not always like tragic thing after tragic thing, while in the show it's like, oh, Arya was so close to seeing her sister Sansa, but oh, they just missed each other in the nick of time, and then Sansa got raped. While the books aren't that fucking shit. Like, why did you write such a thorough review and not even tell us if you have read the entire series? More than anything, the book felt like a serial melodrama, the hardships of an ensemble cast who are meant to watch over, sympathise with. This is only the first book. I don't understand how you're so angry about the first book. Again, like, there is rape, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't happen to many of the main characters, and you haven't even gone into fucking precise specifics about the first book, so what are you talking about? Someone here says, one of his next paragraphs says, it's been suggested that I didn't read enough of Martin to judge him, but if the first 400 pages aren't good, I don't expect the next 1,000 to be any different. You haven't even read the first book. I can't believe I wasted all that time, and I wasted all of your time, because I was reading a review of a guy who hasn't even read the entire book that he's reviewing. This review got 1,500 likes and the reviewer themselves only admits at the end that they haven't finished the fucking book. How is that allowed? That shouldn't be allowed. I mean, I understand if you read the first book in a series. Oh my god, what a waste of my time. Couldn't you have said that at the start? And then he just goes on about all these other authors who do it better than George. Let's see his conclusion, shall we? Because now I'm just upset that I know he hasn't even read the whole book. He hasn't even give Martin the chance. He's just I'm sure he's just watched the show. Or she. I'm sure they just watched the show. They give one praise. However, there is one thing that Martin has done that no other author has been able to do. Kill the long-running high fantasy series. According to some friends of mine publishing brackets and some on-the-nose remarks by some other person, Martin's inability to deliver a book on time combined with his... Fuck, how do you have the right to judge Martin's ability to hand in a book on time when you haven't even bothered to read his entire book? Like, honestly, at this point, that's just mean. That's just mean to Martin. And Martin deserves better. Hashtag Martin deserves better. And then they go, though I decline to finish this book, I leave you with a caution compiled from various respectable friends of mine who did continue. Like, you can't just... 1,500 likes, people. If you dislike a book, fine. But read the book or don't give hate. Quote, this is from someone who apparently has read the whole book. If you need some kind of closure, avoid this series. No arcs will ever be completed. Nothing will ever really change. The tagline is, winter is coming. It's not. As the series goes on, there will be more and more characters and diverging plotlines to keep track of. Many of them apparently completely unrelated to each other, even as it is increasingly become just another cliche facet's chosen one, like every other fantasy series out there. If you enjoy a grim, excessively long soap opera with lots of death... Look, I'm not going to finish this review because you didn't even finish the book, and I think it's really disrespectful for 1,500 people who probably only tried a few pages of the book to then like this review and think, oh, that's all I need to know about George R. R. Martin and his series. It's just really bad life skills. How can you write such a negative review when you haven't read the book? You haven't read the book, so you can't pinpoint exact characters and points that you're trying to make. You just make broad statements about the fantasy genre. Like, fuck you. I'm going to edit out all the swearing because it's probably a bit excessive. I thought this was just going to be fun. I just wanted funny ones. Maybe I'll do another one with funny ones, but let's check up again how many. I'm sure they also have a lot of people disagreeing, and I hope so, because that's 1,671 people liked this review. I really hope it's not into high fantasy who rated this review, who post things like this, because it totally just undermines exactly what Martin accomplished. And even if Martin never finishes his series, he's still accomplished more than a lot of other authors do, and it just hurts. And I'm going to link down below that blog and podcast that I really respect, where they go into depth about why the show is so much worse than the book. I'm also going to make a light-hearted version of this video because honestly, that just had me heated. I just wanted to have fun here, guys. I just want some bad reviews where they're just like, I don't like this book because X. I don't want thorough reviews of books that haven't even been read. Bye, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. I don't know when I'll be posting this, but it's been pretty fun. So, whoop whoop, bye.